Have you ever wondered why some people seem to move through life with unwavering direction, while others drift from one fleeting desire to the next? Why certain individuals can endure hardship, sacrifice, and countless setbacks without losing their way, while others abandon their path at the first sign of difficulty? The answer lies not in the strength of their emotions or the fire of their enthusiasm, but in something far deeper and more enduring. Most people believe that motivation is the fuel of great achievement. They wait for inspiration to strike, for passion to ignite, for the perfect moment when their heart burns with desire. But this is a profound misunderstanding of how lasting change occurs. Motivation is like the morning mist, beautiful when it appears, but certain to vanish when the sun rises higher. It comes and goes with the seasons of the heart, with the changing circumstances of life, with the shifting winds of fortune. Confucius understood this truth 25 centuries ago when he observed the patterns of human behavior. He saw that those who relied solely on their feelings, no matter how intense, would inevitably falter when those feelings faded. He witnessed students who began their studies with great enthusiasm, only to abandon them when the initial excitement wore thin. He observed rulers who made grand proclamations in moments of passion, only to forget their promises when faced with adversity. But he also saw something else. He saw individuals who possessed an inner compass that guided them regardless of how they felt on any given day. These were people who had discovered their purpose, not the shallow purpose of personal gain or temporary pleasure, but the deep purpose that connects a human being to the eternal order of existence. This is what we call the way, and it is what transforms ordinary people into individuals of extraordinary character. The difference between motivation and purpose is like the difference between a candle flame and the North Star. The flame dances and flickers, providing light only for a brief moment and only to those who stand close. But the North Star remains constant, guiding travelers across vast distances and through the darkest nights. When you align your life with true purpose, you gain access to this kind of unwavering guidance. But what exactly is purpose in the Confucian sense? It is not merely having goals or ambitions. It is not about achieving success or accumulating wealth or gaining recognition. True purpose is the deep understanding of your role in the grand harmony of existence. It is knowing how your individual actions contribute to the well-being of your family, your community, and the world itself. It is the recognition that your life has meaning, not because of what you can get, but because of what you can give. Consider the farmer who rises before dawn every day, not because he feels motivated, but because he understands his purpose. He knows that his crops will feed families, that his labor contributes to the prosperity of his village, that his dedication honors the traditions passed down from his ancestors. The weather may be harsh, his body may ache, his emotions may fluctuate, but his purpose remains constant. This is why he can endure what others cannot. This is why he continues when others quit. Or think of the teacher who spends countless hours preparing lessons, not because every moment brings joy, but because she understands that shaping young minds is her sacred duty. There are days when her students seem uninterested, when her efforts appear to bear no fruit, when she feels discouraged and weary. But her purpose sustains her through these difficult moments because she knows that education is the foundation upon which civilization rests. The parent who sacrifices personal comfort for the well-being of their children does not do so because they wake up every morning feeling enthusiastic about changing diapers or losing sleep. They do so because they understand that raising virtuous human beings is perhaps the most important contribution they can make to the world. Their purpose transcends their momentary feelings and gives them strength that no amount of motivation could provide. This is the fundamental distinction that changes everything. When you act from motivation, you are at the mercy of your emotions, your circumstances, your energy levels. You become like a boat without an anchor, tossed about by every wave and current. But when you act from purpose, you become like a mountain, unmoved by storms, steady through all seasons, a source of stability for others who may be struggling to find their way. Confucius taught that the cultivation of character begins with understanding this difference. The petty person, he said, is driven by immediate desires and temporary enthusiasms. They start many things, but finish few. They make promises in moments of excitement, but break them when the excitement fades. They live at the surface level of existence, never diving deep enough to discover what truly matters. The noble person, however, has learned to look beyond the fluctuations of mood and circumstance. They have identified the principles that will guide their actions regardless of how they feel. They have connected their daily activities to something greater than themselves, to the welfare of their family, to the harmony of society, to the cultivation of virtue, to the service of heaven itself. This transformation does not happen overnight. Like the growth of a mighty tree, it requires patience, consistency, and deep roots. It begins with honest self-examination. You must ask yourself not what you want to achieve, but who you want to become. Not what will make you happy in the moment, but what will make your life meaningful across the span of years. Not what will bring you pleasure, but what will bring you peace. The ancient sages understood that human beings are not meant to live as isolated individuals pursuing their own narrow interests. We are part of a vast web of relationships and responsibilities. When you begin to see your life in this larger context, when you understand how your actions ripple outward to affect others, when you grasp the profound interconnectedness of all existence, then you begin to discover your true purpose. This discovery changes everything about how you approach your daily life. Tasks that once seemed burdensome become opportunities to practice virtue. Challenges that once felt overwhelming become chances to strengthen your character. Setbacks that once discouraged you become lessons in perseverance and wisdom. When the heart is aligned with righteousness, action flows naturally from within. There is no struggle between what you know you should do and what you feel like doing, because your feelings themselves have been educated by wisdom. Your desires have been refined through contemplation and practice until they naturally incline toward what is good, noble, and beneficial to all. This is why Confucius placed such emphasis on the cultivation of inner virtue. He understood that external circumstances will always change, that fortune will rise and fall, that praise and criticism will come and go like the seasons. But the person who has developed true character possesses something that cannot be taken away, a foundation of moral strength that remains steady through all transformations. Consider the difference between the merchant who trades honestly because he fears punishment and the merchant who trades honestly because he has cultivated the virtue of trustworthiness. Both may perform the same actions, but their foundations are entirely different. The first relies on external enforcement and will likely cheat when he believes he can escape detection. The second has internalized the principle of honesty until it has become part of his very nature. He cannot act dishonestly without violating his own essence. This internalization of virtue is what transforms duty from burden into joy. When righteousness becomes natural to you, fulfilling your obligations no longer feels like sacrifice, but like the expression of your truest self. The devoted son does not serve his aging parents because society expects it, or because he will be rewarded for it, but because filial piety has become woven into the fabric of his being. To act otherwise would cause him greater pain than any external hardship. The wise ruler does not govern justly because it maintains his power or enhances his reputation, but because justice has become his second nature. He cannot sleep peacefully knowing that his subjects suffer from his neglect or poor decisions. His personal well-being has become inseparable from the well-being of those under his care. This is the profound mystery of purposeful living that many fail to grasp. They imagine that acting from principle means suppressing their desires, fighting against their nature, living in constant internal conflict. But true virtue operates by the opposite principle. It transforms your nature so thoroughly that virtuous action becomes the path of least resistance. You do what is right not despite your feelings, but because your feelings themselves have been educated to love what is right. Confucius spoke of this transformation when he described the stages of his own development. In his youth, he said, he struggled to align his actions with his understanding of virtue. But as he matured and his character deepened, he reached a point where his desires naturally flowed in harmony with the moral order. He could follow his heart without transgressing what was right, because his heart itself had been cultivated through years of patient practice. This cultivation requires what the ancients called the rectification of the heart. Just as a farmer must prepare the soil before planting seeds, you must prepare your inner nature before virtue can take root and flourish. This preparation involves honest examination of your motivations, regular practice of right conduct even when it brings no immediate reward, and constant attention to the subtle movements of pride, selfishness, and other obstacles to moral development. The process is like learning to play a musical instrument. In the beginning, every note requires conscious effort and deliberate choice. Your fingers feel clumsy, your timing is uncertain, and producing beautiful music seems almost impossible. But through patient practice, something remarkable happens. The movements become natural, the rhythms flow without conscious thought, and what once required tremendous effort now emerges effortlessly from your trained hands. Similarly, in the cultivation of character, virtuous action gradually becomes your default response to life's circumstances. Compassion arises spontaneously when you encounter suffering. Courage manifests naturally when you face adversity. Wisdom guides your decisions without lengthy deliberation because wisdom has become part of your essential nature. But this transformation cannot be rushed or forced. Like the growth of bamboo, which spends years developing its root system before shooting upward with remarkable speed, character development requires patience and faith in the process. There will be long periods when progress seems invisible, when old habits reassert themselves, when you wonder if true change is possible. During these times of apparent stagnation, remember that the deepest work is often invisible to casual observation. The tree that appears unchanged from day to day is actually undergoing constant transformation, drawing nutrients from the soil, strengthening its trunk, extending its roots, preparing for the season when it will burst forth with new growth. Your daily practices of virtue, however small they may seem, are performing this same invisible work within your character. Each time you choose patience over irritation, each moment you select compassion over judgment, each instance you prefer truth over convenience, you are strengthening the moral foundation upon which your entire life rests. The ancient texts tell us that water, though soft and yielding, can eventually carve through solid stone. This happens not through force or violence, but through persistence and the natural power of consistent pressure applied over time. Your commitment to virtue works in the same way. Small daily choices, maintained with unwavering consistency, possess the power to transform the hardest aspects of human nature. This is why purpose proves more reliable than motivation as a guide for living. Motivation depends on favorable circumstances, pleasant feelings, and external encouragement. But purpose draws its strength from the eternal principles that govern human flourishing. These principles do not change with the weather, do not fluctuate with your energy levels, and do not abandon you when life becomes difficult. When you understand that purpose flows from the eternal order of things, you begin to see that your struggles with consistency are not failures of character, but invitations to deeper understanding. The student who abandons his studies when learning becomes difficult has not yet grasped that education serves a purpose far greater than personal advancement. The merchant who cuts corners when business is slow has not yet seen that honest dealing contributes to the harmony of the entire marketplace. The ruler who compromises his principles when faced with opposition has not yet understood that his virtue affects the moral climate of his entire realm. This is why Confucius taught that true learning begins not with the accumulation of knowledge, but with the recognition of your place in the great web of human relationships. When a son serves his father with devotion, he is not merely fulfilling a personal obligation. He is participating in the cosmic principle of respect that flows from younger to elder, from student to teacher, from subject to ruler. When a wife supports her husband with loyalty, she is not simply maintaining domestic peace. She is embodying the virtue of trustworthiness that holds all human bonds together. These relationships are not arbitrary social conventions, but reflections of the natural order that governs all existence. Just as rivers flow toward the sea and seasons follow their appointed course, human beings find their deepest fulfillment when they align their actions with their proper roles and responsibilities. This alignment is what the ancients called living in harmony with the way, and it is the source of that unshakable strength that no external circumstance can disturb. But here lies a profound mystery that many fail to understand. The more completely you surrender your small personal will to this larger purpose, the more truly yourself you become. The ruler who governs according to virtue rather than personal ambition discovers that his authentic power increases rather than diminishes. The teacher who focuses entirely on her students' development rather than her own reputation finds that her influence extends far beyond her classroom. The craftsman who pursues excellence for its own sake rather than for profit discovers that his work brings him a satisfaction that no amount of gold could purchase. This paradox reveals itself because true purpose never asks you to become someone other than who you are meant to be. Instead, it calls you to become more fully yourself, but the self that exists in harmony with virtue, rather than the self that exists in opposition to it. The angry man who learns patience does not suppress his natural energy, but redirects it toward constructive ends. The proud woman who cultivates humility does not diminish her capabilities, but learns to use them in service of something greater than her own glory. When your daily actions flow from this deeper understanding, you discover that discipline ceases to be a struggle and becomes a form of music. The farmer who tends his fields with reverence for the cycles of growth finds rhythm in his labor that transforms work into worship. The scholar who pursues wisdom, not for personal advancement, but for the sake of truth itself, finds that study becomes a source of joy rather than burden. The parent who raises children according to virtue rather than mere affection discovers that even the most difficult moments of guidance become opportunities for mutual growth. This transformation occurs because you are no longer fighting against the grain of existence, but working with it. A skilled carpenter does not struggle against the nature of wood, but learns to work with its natural patterns and strengths. Similarly, when you align your life with virtue, you are working with the fundamental structure of reality rather than against it. Your efforts become effortless, not because they require no energy, but because they flow in the direction that leads to genuine fulfillment. The ancient sages taught that heaven, earth, and humanity form a trinity of mutual influence and support. When human beings live according to virtue, they strengthen the moral fabric of the entire universe. When they act in opposition to virtue, they contribute to discord and suffering, not only in their immediate surroundings, but in the cosmic order itself. This is why your personal cultivation is never merely personal. Every moment of patience you practice in the face of provocation, every act of generosity you perform despite personal cost, every word of truth you speak despite potential consequences ripples outward to strengthen the foundations upon which all human flourishing rests. The path before you is clear. Stop waiting for the fleeting spark of motivation and begin the patient work of cultivating virtue. Ask yourself not what excites you today, but what legacy you wish to leave. Discover your place in the eternal order. Align your heart with righteousness and watch as duty transforms into joy. When purpose becomes your compass, you will find that consistency flows naturally from within, and your life becomes a testament to the enduring power of the way.